Today's episode, we're discussing waves, we're discussing some science behind the waves, but also how boards interact with waves and the type of turns that we should do. Now, there's a saying in surfing that we should surf rail to rail. Let me break it down for you. If you're going down a hill on a skateboard and you're going to get too much speed wobble and potentially fall off and get road rash, all right? I would say you want to meander in a figure eight. You're going to get speed and manage your speed. Get speed, manage your speed. Snowboarders do it to manage speed. Water skis do it to basically cross the wake and do jumps. And as a surfer, you should do it rail to rail. But we're going to add some theory to this and explain why going rail to rail in surfing is so much more beneficial than just standing on your board. So, if I turn that board sideways, your board's got rocker, it's got curve there. The curve's for a dual purpose. Not only does it fit into the curve of the wave when you're taking off on it, but when you put the board on rail and you start to lean over, right, something special happens. That rocker, which would normally cause you drag, helps the board to turn. If we talk about fins, what some of you might not know about fins is that the fins, they're actually pointing towards the nose. If they were dead straight, it would make the board so much faster, but the downside is you wouldn't be able to turn. So, by towing the fin in, water hits the outside of the fin and causes a little bit of drag, but water passing through the center of the fin accelerates, and that helps the board to turn. If you understand the principle of an airplane wing, the air goes around the foil of the wing, and as it follows the curve of the fin, it would cause a downward pressure here, which would cause an upward pressure here, and it would make the fin lift or make the airplane wing rise. So in surfing, the drag coming around the fin pushes in on the back and it makes the front of the fin want to turn. So we can understand that lift from an airplane wing. Now, that effect is called the Coanda effect, and it doesn't just happen around the fin, it happens at multiple areas around the board. And we're going to explain how enacting that principle can help you get hold and lift out of your board. So here's the kicker. If you're standing on your board and your board's flat, okay, this fin with the lift would cancel out this fin with the lift, and you're pretty much just going to go in a straight line and you're not doing any turning. The other thing about the fin, if I take these out and I put these together, can you see that there's a gap between the fins? So basically the fins have an angle of about 9 degrees. They aren't straight, and there's a purpose for this. When your board is on rail and you want to turn it, if you take your head and you lean over your toe edge, that round part of the rail will roll, and when it rolls to about that degree over there, you can see that now that fin is vertically in the water, so that when you're on the rail and turning, you get more fin in the water. The more fin you have in the water, the Coanda effect of lift around that fin will help your surfboard to turn. The fact that your surfboard's on rail, this means that you're reducing drag on the board, making the board cut through the water more efficiently. The rocker when you're flat, which slows you down, is suddenly effortlessly cutting through the water, and that rocker now is positively geared to help you turn. The interesting thing is that water, when flowing around you, sticks to the rail the same way that air sticks to the shape of an airplane wing, which helps the airplane stay in the air. Pretty much when you bottom turning, the water adheres to that rail and it gives you hold on the bottom turn. Now, if you were flat and you were trying to pivot on a bottom turn, what happens is sometimes you've only got that fin stabilizing you and keeping you in the water, and sometimes that fin can cavitate and slide out and you end up face planting. Whereas that rail, buried in the water, it's almost impossible to displace all the water on that rail, which means that when you do put your board on rail, you get so much more hold and drive out of the bottom turn, as opposed to someone that surfs flat and tries to pivot. And we understand from riding a bicycle that when you lean on your bicycle, you'll maintain speed. And by putting the board on rail and reducing drag, you'll maintain speed throughout the turn. So what we understand here is that the Coanda effect is not only working around the fin, but when you're on rail, the other fin is coming out of the water, reducing drag. The board's on rail, reducing drag, and you're getting all the benefits of the hold and the lift. So if we break that down in terms of hydrodynamics, we need to understand what's happening on the wave. On the wave, water's drawing up the wave and it's throwing down. So to give you a better explanation, if you pulled a plug out of the bathtub, the water would spiral down. So that same spiral effect is how we are surfing our waves. So to tap into the energy, we need to go down the wave and get speed, go up the wave and go down the wave and get speed. Water is drawing up, throwing down. So by putting our board on rail, we are submersing it into the energy of the wave. And that water then can help pull a buoyant board up. If we're not standing on the board and we're leaning and that rail is rounding, the more we put the rail into the water, the more of the wave's energy we can harvest and the more lift we can get. By putting that board onto the rail, we're using the Coanda effect, which is also how an aeroplane gets lift. And we're tapping into that same technology to basically tap into the water and go up the wave. But here's the kicker. If you stand on your board, your rock is slowing you down. You're only using your fins. Now, your left fin is cancelling out the right fin, and that is slowing you down. And your back fin, which is now your stabilizer, is just causing you drag and slowing you down. If you try pivot to bottom turn, when you push your tail rocker into the water, you will get a pivot and a direction change, but it comes at a loss of speed. By working against the lift of the wave, you're cancelling out speed. And you've probably got a very, very, very slim chance that you've got enough speed from the top of the wave to take you back up, especially when you're constantly putting the brakes on. But by taking the fastest line down the wave and engaging the Coanda effect by utilizing your rail and turning, the wave will draw you up. Now, the other interesting thing about the Coanda effect, because it follows the shape of the board, when you go up to the top of the wave and you want to turn, the surfboard has got outline on the curve. So when you go up to the top and you start to turn that way, water follows the outline curve so that it'll help you top turn on the top of the wave. So by understanding the principles of the Coanda effect and how the water adheres to the rail and follows the curve of the board, you could start to make those curves fit into the curve of the wave and start better tapping into the energy of the wave and surfing with more speed, power and flow. So by inducing the Coanda effect, what it does is it enhances your rail control. So there's two things that rail control will give you. When you're doing a bottom turn, it's going to give you hold on the bottom turn so that the board doesn't slide out and cavitate. But it's also going to allow you to tap into the lift. The lift is where the water is drawing up the wave face. Putting your board on rail will allow you to tap into that energy that's going up. This is an important part of learning how to surf top to bottom. One of the biggest concepts, and you'll hear aerodynamics, hydrodynamics, it's all about reducing drag. So cars are designed around reducing drag to make them more fuel efficient. Likewise, aeroplanes are designed around reducing drag to basically fuel efficient but also to fly better. Well, in surfing, if we can reduce drag, we'll be able to get more speed and manage energy better. The best way that you could minimize drag is to stop standing on your board. I know it sounds absurd, but if you take off on a wave and you lean on your bottom turn, your board's rolling on the rail, the curve of the board is going to drive you to the top of the wave. On the top of the wave, because the wave's got an angle, you should be sideways on that wave using your heel edge rail and turning and going back down. So now suddenly the concept of surfing rail to rail and doing figure 8 turns starts making sense in terms of how the board works and interacts with the wave. And the only time that you're actually balancing on the board is when your 2 figure 8 circles transitions in the center. So if you minimize the amount of time you're balancing on your board, you're going to be minimizing the drag and surfing better. So what you got to understand is that water always takes the path of least resistance, and surfers love to take the shortest distance. So generally a surfer stands up and races out onto the shoulder, where water will go from the top of the wave down to the bottom, get drawn back up to the top. So water on the wave is spiraling. So if we can start going down, up, rail to rail, tapping into the wave's energy using the Coanda force, we will start to be following the flow of energy on the wave rather than chasing and forcing our passion on the wave. So that's really important. If we go back to the bathtub analogy, in surfing, we call it staying in the pocket. But in the bathtub, if you dropped a matchstick in the bathtub, the closer it goes to the spiral, it'll speed up and go down. Suggesting that on a wave, the closer we are to the pocket where the energy is drawing up and down on the wave, the easier it will be for us to tap into the energy of the wave. And in order for us to do this, we need to be able to put the board on rail to be able to utilize the lift and the speed on the wave. If we understand that on a wave, water's drawing up the wave face and the water's throwing down, it's important to understand that where the water draws up, we need to be on rail to tap into the lift to help us to go up. So we're constantly paddling into the wave and trying to survey the bottom of the wave to read where the wave is lifting, and then we want to work with it and create lift to go up to the top of the wave. When we're up, we can get speed by taking the fastest path down, but we need to pay attention to details, to where the wave is lifting again, so that we can start to harmoniously move with the energy in the wave. When you understand the principle of lift and how that helps aeroplanes fly, you'll be confident to fly. But a lot of surfers don't trust the rail because they come from surfing flat and trying to go from point A to point B and trying to use the fins to do all the hard work and the heavy lifting. The best surfers make surfing look easy. Geordie Smith's 100 kgs, but he's light on his feet because he's not standing on the board. He's engaging the rail and making the wave do the heavy lifting, and that Coanda effect to give him lift to go back up. So it's super important that when you start surfing rail to rail, you start to develop the confidence to understand what's happening with the energy in the wave and your equipment. There's 4 things that aeroplanes have to consider. There's the drag, there's the thrust from the engine, there's the lift aspect, and then there's gravity. In surfing, if we tap into the lift, it will take us up the wave, and if we use gravity, we can create speed. We get the thrust and the push from the wave, and if we can reduce drag by surfing rail to rail, we're going to be surfing quicker with more speed and power, and surfing will appear to be effortless, which is what the best surfers in the world do.